must join with him, Gandalf. We must join with Sauron.
Gandalf versus Saruman. The treason of Isengard. The wizard turned many colours. Saruman came out victorious, but did not take Gandalf's life. Why was this? Did he have a plan? Hello and welcome to The Broken Sword, your YouTube home for the Lord of the Rings and all things J.R.R. Tolkien. In today's video, we look at the thought process behind Saruman's decisions.
Build me an army worthy of Mordor.
First things first, do not forget to smash that like button and subscribe to the channel so that you can join the ever-growing Brohirrim. One of the most important confrontations to take place within the Lord of the Rings is that of Saruman the White and Gandalf the Grey. This confrontation between old friends shows us how the two Istari have gone down entirely different paths and have arrived at different choices. Saruman had decided by the beginning of the time of the Fellowship of the Ring that it was pointless to resist Sauron and decided to try to convince Gandalf to likewise betray the Free Peoples of Middle-earth, to betray their mission. Gandalf refused, of course, and so Saruman captured Gandalf and imprisoned him on top of the Orthanc tower at Isengard. Later though, with the help of his friend Radagast and the great eagle Gwaihir, he would manage to escape and become one of the fiercest opponents of the fallen wizard. But this brings me to today's question for this video, and also one for all of you from me. Firstly, would you like to see a book versus movie comparison for the Treason of Isengard, and see where things may have been altered? If you would, then please drop a like on the video, it massively helps us out. Give it a share, it really does help the channel, and leave us a comment below of the Treason of Isengard to really show you on that video, and I will get it added on the list of things to get done. But now, for the real question for today, why did Saruman not kill Gandalf when he refused to join him? Let's get into it.
When did Saruman the Wise abandon reason for madness?
Saruman lays all his cards on the table, and once revealed, Gandalf becomes one of the main threats to Saruman and his plans going forward. This really begs the question of how the Fellowship would have fared had they set out on their adventure without the guidance of Gandalf. Would they have gone through Moria at all, for example? If you recall, Aragorn was doubly opposed to going through the mines, and he is not easily scared away from anything. If not for Gandalf overruling him, as it were, we might have seen the continued attempt to cross the Pass of Caradhras. Not only that, the Fellowship would be without their true leader, and should they have continued on to Rohan, how sure are we that the Fellowship as it was comprised could have restored Theoden King to health and Meduseld? It is possible that Treebeard would never have embarked on the path of open confrontation with Isengard. And the further possibility is that the armies of Rohan would not be able to muster in time to help Gondor at the most critical moment during the Battle of the Pelennor Fields. The first answer might be hidden when Gandalf explains his absence to Frodo, why he did not meet him in Bree and why he was not there during their hard drive to Rivendell. We get a recollection of the dialogue that took place in the Tower of Orthanc, and therein Saruman refers to Gandalf as friend and helper. He treats him with respect and describes the full power of Mordor and of Sauron the Great. It can be gainsaid that Saruman did not plan the events that would later unfold, and that he was more controlled by Sauron than perhaps he was able to admit to himself. He may have planned to double-cross both sides, but there was still a bit in there. It is possible he let Gandalf live so he could see for himself the hopelessness of the opposition arrayed against the Free Peoples of Middle-earth. In the eye of Gandalf, there is no desire for power, only the fulfillment of his mission. As he says, our intentions will remain the same, only the means will change. It is important that a key issue for understanding Tolkien's work is the unoriginality of evil. In the world of Arda, there are few characters completely devoid of goodness, if any at all, but we must remember that villains rarely consider themselves as villains. This must be understood. Saruman most certainly did not see himself as the villain. Like we touched on in our previous video on whether Saruman was always evil or not, it is likely that his desire to obtain the Ring of Power did not grow out of the same will to dominate all life that Sauron had. it, but his desire to fix the problems he saw in Middle-earth, heal those diseases in his eyes. In his opinion, this could only be done by creating a new order, using the One Ring of Sauron against him and with the help of Gandalf. At the same time, he sees his way forward, even if Sauron recovered the ring first. By serving the Dark Lord, he thought there would be chances to find ways to cooperate, and was unable to recognize the extent to which he had been consumed by the penetrations into his mind made via the Palantir. Saruman was not an absolute evil, at least not by the point in the story we are here considering. Thus, for Saruman, the killing of Gandalf was really a bridge too far, an act of evil he could still recognize at that point as his mind was not yet so clouded by the intrusions of Sauron. It is true that he had long begrudged Gandalf the respect he earned from all corners of the world, but that does not mean he was not yet ready to murder his old friend. The dialogue between Gandalf and Saruman in Orthanc can be considered the crossroads of Saruman's internal conflict. He recognized that Gandalf would be a strong ally. He recognized his nobility, his strength, and the wisdom of his friend whether he would admit it or not, and this would not let him resort to murder. At least yet. He wanted instead to convince Gandalf of the inevitability of Mordor's victory and bring Gandalf to his side. And it is more likely that it would be difficult to convince Gandalf of these ideas. But at many moments within our story, we see that Saruman's voice is being wielded as his ultimate weapon, so to think it is impossible would not be in his mind. Again and again, he is able to bewitch and astound those whom he is speaking. The Nazgul, the guard set to keep him after the Ents have imprisoned him, even Theoden and his men were almost turned when Saruman appealed to them after everything he had done. More likely it is that Saruman thought the retaking of the Ring of Power would have happened much earlier in the story, either as the hobbits had left the Shire or before they had even made it to Rivendell and the protection of Lord Elrond. He thought this would be demoralizing to Gandalf, and potentially enough to bring Gandalf to his side to fight against Sauron and evil as he understood it, or at least at a means by which he could strengthen his position, and not by so doing commit murder. And to murder another member of the White Council is nothing to what it would mean to murder another one of the Istari.
I gave you the chance of aiding me willingly, but you have elected pain!
Another thing that we must keep in mind is that Saruman had lost all faith in the power of the free peoples of Middle-earth, in the strength of Gondor, Rohan, and the elves that remained. The dwarves, by his reckoning, had not recovered from the devastation of Smaug in Erebor, the Balrog in Moria, and in principle could not continue the course of their civilization in Middle-earth without strong and determined leadership. The people were divided as never before. The book repeatedly stresses that the peoples of mortal races would never again have the will and power that was present in the War of the Last Alliance. Obviously, both Gandalf and Saruman understood this, and he believed that among men there was neither courage nor friendship. All this created the incorrect impression there was no hope for the free peoples to overcome this big threat of Sauron. This leads us to the most important point, and that is the Palantir and the influence of Sauron. All of the fears and doubts in Saruman's mind were reinforced by the will of Sauron. He revealed his plans to Saruman, dashing his hopes for the future of Middle-earth. Thanks to the Seeing Stone, he knew that Rohan would not prevent the fall of Gondor and would not come to their rescue due to their mutual distrust. The orcs of Sauron had already built up a huge army in the north, along with the undead of the resting place. He knew that troops of the Haradrim were coming from the east, and that pirates and mercenaries were moving too. Minas Tirith was likely to fall, and since he could not see the whole of the picture, it seemed ultimately hopeless and unlikely anyone could aid them in their hour of ultimate need. The picture Sauron was able to create within the White Wizard's mind was terrible. It was bleak. It relied on chance or luck, and this was in no way part of Saruman's character. And he had an absolute belief in his own abilities, not only to cope with the power of the ring, but in his abilities to subdue and use it for his own purposes. Hence the farce of Saruman of many colours, Saruman the Ringmaker, and so on. This is probably the way he felt he would be able to fulfill his mission when it really came down to it. Each of the wizards sent into Middle-earth had the choice to do as they choose, and each went their own way. Saruman might have thought that if he could not complete his mission after immediately taking the ring, then he was convinced that Sauron would at least take counsel with himself and Gandalf were they of one mind. Not knowing that Sauron is perhaps the second most stubborn being to ever live in Middle-earth. And who is the most, you may ask? Well, Feanor, of course, but that is a story for another day. But in the end, Saruman knew nothing about the Ringbearer, and did not believe in friendship or trust. He needed Gandalf because Gandalf knew about the movements of the ring and the Ringbearer. Saruman had no idea how to look for the ring, who had it, or where it had gone. He had tried, and he had failed. It is more likely that he did not intend to kill Gandalf as much as he intended to hold him until he was able to extract this information from him, and not by friendly continued questioning either. Despite what scruples Saruman had left, it is unlikely he would have remained so restrained in his actions forever, and had Gandalf not managed to escape when he did, Saruman might well have killed him in the end. If, that is, he thought the Grey Wizard was no longer of benefit, and really at that point, too great of a threat to remain alive.
Embrace the power of the ring, or embrace your own destruction.
So there we have it. There are many reasons that Saruman may have let Gandalf live. It could be that he was not yet in a position to openly spill blood and transgress so broadly. It is possible he was not able to kill Gandalf because Gandalf had friends in high places, and the wheels that would set in motion would be too fast to stop. Not least of all Gwaihir and Radagast, but Eru himself is a good friend to have when the darkness seems most dark, and the light most dim and far away. At the end of the day, Saruman was out for himself, and he believed he always knew best. So he believed it was the smartest thing to do to keep Gandalf alive at this time. However, we definitely cannot say he would never have reached that point where it would have been the option to take. With that now though, it is time for my question of the day, which is, would you like to see that book versus movie comparison for the Treason of Isengard? Remember, like the video, share it as well, and leave us that comment of the Treason of Isengard to get us working on that. And now to shout out our patrons. You guys have been incredible in supporting our short film, and we cannot thank you enough. We have the Divine Power tier members of Kevin and Abram, the Fire Demon tier members of Nashith and Gregory, and the Wizard Staff tier members of John, Andrew, Jennifer, Hunter, and David too. Every single one of you is a true legend of the Brohirrim. Finally, if you have managed to reach the end of the video with me today and you are enjoying what you see on the channel, please hit that subscribe button with the bell icon too, so that you can be notified of all future uploads. And so, thank you for spending just some of your time with me today, and I will see you next time on The Broken Sword.